Okay, you guys, so I'm going to show you how to colorize specific layers of a Photoshop file that you have broken up into layers already. So there are a number of ways we can do this. I think the first and easiest way we can go about it is, or I should actually say the hardest, but the simplest way to describe is to use your lasso tool to cut around an object. I'm going to do this very loosely because I don't have a ton of time. Cut around an object. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to fill this object with a color. In this case, I'm going to fill it with like a pink, right? And so this is a color on its own, which doesn't have a texture, and you can either set an opacity to it, which was set to 50. You can toggle your opacities with your number keys when you have your selection tool, and any sort of layer that you have over here has an opacity, right? If I press the 1 key, it'll set itself to 10% opacity, 2 key, 20%, 5 key, 50%, so on and so forth. If I press like 2.5 really quick, it'll be 25. And 0 is 100. I'm going to hold it here for now and play with these filters. I think a multiply might get us closer to a color that we want. Darken, let's see what overlay does. Overlay doesn't, okay, and then there's always color. Now color is actually getting us pretty close to a pink, more of a purple, but the pink is mixing with the hues of the brick behind. And so this is where this method is a little bit imperfect. It's good for coloring white surfaces and things of that matter, but it's not great for coloring surfaces that have colors already associated with them. So I'm just going to name this layer pink, and I'm going to turn it off and show you guys a better way to go about doing this. So with my brick layer selected, I want to turn this into a pink that's like this. I'm going to go down here to, I'm not sure what this is called, but I'm going to go down here to this thing and select hue and saturation. What this does is creates a hue and saturation layer that affects everything underneath it. And to demonstrate that, I'll pull it all the way up and change the color. Now everything is changing, right? But when I pull it down, all it's changing is the layers underneath it, which just happens to be, in this case, the brick. If I wanted to, say, just affect the trees, I move this up and I want to colorize only the trees and not everything underneath it. I hold my Alt key and I hover in between these layers. In this case, I would be attaching to a folder which has all of my trees in it, but when I click holding Alt, a layer that's above another layer, it attaches the top layer to the bottom layer, and then that top layer only affects that bottom layer. So now I can slide and affect the color of these trees. And you can do this with just trying to get just running through your hue and bumping up your saturation. But what I like to do is click this little colorize button. And now when I go to cyan, it's cyan. When I go to yellow, it's yellow. When I go to red, it's red. When you don't have that colorized, the hues take an inverted stance to how it approaches color. So your middle or your 0 is the original color, and then your plus 180 or your red in this case or whatever is actually an invert of this. So this is a good way to go about when you colorize. So you'll notice that the trunks stay relatively, they have less color options afforded to them than the leaves, because when you invert this color, which is almost a gray, you end up with basically a gray. But when you colorize this, it adds color to all of these. And so that's one way you can go about this. Also, more customizable options, you can run through what's called master reds, yellows, greens, cyans, blues, and magentas. And what looks like we have mostly reds in here, if I select this, then I can change the color profile of only the registered colors in between this range. So it changes that, and you'll notice that it's a little splotchy because not every color in here is a red, but a lot of them are. So that's another way to individualize things. It's a good way to go about. Say if you wanted to change this woman's color or this woman's shirt from pink to blue or something like that. That would be relatively easily done using the hue and saturation and finding out, toggling probably what would be a magenta and maybe a little bit of red and getting it closer to the blue. And it might affect her skin color a little bit, which would give you'd probably want to filter in where or clip using a mask where that's happening. So that's another way to go about this. I think there's a combination way where you don't have to, in our first method where we had to clip everything out using our lasso tool and so on and so forth, you can do something similar using the attach mechanism. To detach, you do the same thing. You hold Alt and select in between, hold Alt, select in between. Up here for properties, if you want to alter the properties of any hue and saturation filter, you can just make sure your properties bar is up here, and I think you can find it under Windows Properties. Have that toggled on, and this will be here. And then you can always go back and alter it. This is the benefit of having this in your layer list rather than going up and doing it via image adjustments. Image adjustments, you'll see hue saturation is over here. As soon as you make this hue saturation change, you won't be able to change it again. So that's the benefit of having the hue saturation over here that's accessible underneath your layer options, is that you can always go up to properties and change that later if you want. So I'm going to show you one more method to colorize things easily, and I'll show it on, let's show it on top of our people. So again, I'm just going to colorize pink using my brush tool. I'm just creating blank pink canvas, or actually I could just drop the whole thing on top. Now obviously this is covering the entire layer, but if I attach it to our people, and in this case I'm attaching it to the people folder. I hope you guys are using folders and you know how valuable they are, but I'm attaching it to the people folder, and voila. Actually, there's an extra person who isn't in that folder, so how about I drag him into that folder. Now all of my people are pink. And again, you can alter the filtering of this color up here right above your layers and make it colorized. Now they're all pink and they still have details associated with them. Additionally, I could go through and adjust their hue and saturation, or in this case, I think it's more appropriate to adjust their levels. And I can attach the levels to, actually, I'm going to attach the levels to the people right here. And when I do so, that helps make them a little lighter, where the pink had darkened them a bit. Now they're a bit lighter, and that's looking kind of nice. And then I'm going to go back in and just adjust my trees to get them closer to magenta pink that I'm looking for. Brighten up their lightness a little bit, increase their saturation. This is the finicky portion of this. To get these colors to match is incredibly difficult, but you can get them pretty close without doing a whole lot of work. One thing I like to do also is to brush on top. If I wanted to get, say, the color of these trees to match a specific color, I'll throw that color in, and then I'll adjust my hue and saturation to get it as close as I can to this color. And the lightness isn't seeming to work for this because it's just washing everything out. So this might be a case for experimenting with what is possible. Maybe you get close and you don't totally get totally get there. This might be a better case to instead use our brush tool and then to attach the layers. I'll turn this off. Attach the layers to our trees, and then they're perfectly pink. And you just see how easy that was. If you have your layers set up correctly, there's no reason you can't do this incredibly quickly and efficiently. So I hope this video helped. The takeaways are to hold Alt and attach top layers to their under layers, and to use hue and saturation and levels as well as filters. A combination of all of these things will help you recolorize your drawings quite easily. Okay, good luck. See you guys on Tuesday.